scratch and you can hear it.
I've been doing this for God knows how long, and I didn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't.
If it's not got a protector on, you're not meant to scratch it. But it's fine if you've got a little thing. I've been told off for doing that before.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I've been cracking on with this JD and honey, and
Tasty.
it's a bit lucrative.
I don't know. I had a beer last time, but I don't have any left. So I just had to have coffee instead. I probably actually only got about half an hour of this coffee left in me before I'm just gonna fall asleep on the floor. So
nice.
I don't know if we want to get stuck in.
The
second half of the podcast, I suddenly start talking a lot more quietly. I'm just like, Flesh and Blood is great.
What are you drinking, Simon?
So I have a Brewdog collaboration, I think, with Cloudwater. Modern Citizen, it's called, and it's a very tasty hazy IPA, about 6%. Like it.
Bloody hell!
Oh, that's hazy, yeah.
I'm sorry. That looks like dishwater.
Hazy
That's
boy.
a very strange colour.
It's in the
Cloudwater. Is that the one in London?
I think so.
Or is that? Oh, am I thinking of Cloud Drop?
Anyway.
Something. Anyway.
I do brew my own beer, and that came out really well this time. So I might send you some. No, it's too far.
We could have a beer drinking on the podcast.
I'd love that.
That would be a laugh.
Beer
right?
tasting.
I mean, we're technically doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm going for the whiskey.
I feel left out now.
Yeah.
Anyway, hello everyone.
Order a drink.
Sorry. Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome to the very first episode of Push the Point. We've come up with a name. It's Push the Point, and we've got Simon.
Hey everyone.
And we've got Dan.
Hello everyone.
And today it's our very first episode, and we're basically just going to try and hopefully give as much as we can to the UK community in a variety of different ways. And because I'll just ramble on, and I generally don't have scripts and plans like these two beautiful people do, and I just make things up on the spot. Simon, what have we got in store today? I hope you've actually written something down.
So today we're going to open with some talk about some of you might have heard on the grapevine that there have been some spoilers for Monarch.
No.
So we might just look at some of those before we crack on with anything else. And in our very first episode, we have a community member interview, which I really enjoyed. Someone who calls themselves primarily a collector over a player, and we'll get more into that later. And then we're going to ask some big questions. We're going to look at whether first edition is good for the game, whether these cold foils that we all desire are good for the game of Flesh and Blood.
It's good for the wallet.
Good for the wallet.
Well, not if you don't sell them.
No, that's true. Anyway,
not if you buy them.
And if Hamish starts talking too much, Dan or I are going to have to push the point.
Yeah, push the point. That's why we called it Push the Point.
Just stop me talking.
It's nothing to do with Ira decks. Promise.
Oh dear. Anyway, spoilers. Jesus Christ.
What a whirlwind.
Yeah, literally Jesus. Literally the devil.
I wouldn't be. It would shock. I would. Something about it makes me think if Jesus Christ become a class, it'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll take anything. I didn't see this. I didn't see Shadow Brute come in.
So I'll start.
Maybe Jesus Christ.
I'll start with that because I maybe hoped, maybe thought, maybe assumed that Monarch would have 4 new classes. Mm-hmm. And we've seen something called talents introduced, the first of which are Shadow and Light. But we haven't seen a new class yet. We have a Shadow Brute, which was, to me, was completely out of the blue. I don't know how you guys felt.
Yeah, it wasn't the class I was expecting from Monarch at all, because I was just assuming it was going to be, like you said, so 4 new classes, or maybe maybe a Guardian and a warrior maybe, and 2 new classes on top of that. I wasn't really expecting Brute at all. But I mean, it's an interesting one. Hamish, you play Brute a lot, so what were your thoughts on seeing that new hero?
Right, to put a bit of context, right, set the scene, make the stage. I had my second COVID jab, right. The following day, I heard the rumours that the second COVID jab makes you feel like crap, right? And it's true. So I was not emotionally ready for anything, and I was trying to put my little baby girl to sleep at 2 a.m, and then I just jumped on the Discord while I'm trying to put her to sleep and saw Shadow Brute, and my whole body just got more ill because I just really didn't understand what the hell was going on, because I was in Simon's boat. Where are my 4 new classes? I bought all this stuff so I can jump into a new class and I can invest just like I did in Arcane Rise and just like I did in Welcome to Wraith, and now I've got a Shadow Brute. I'm not ready. So I was just, it threw everything up in the air, and I was anxious. I was anxious. I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit anxious about that. I was excited to see it. I was intrigued to know what was going on, but it wasn't what I was thinking. It was almost like Ned Stark got his head chopped off, right? And you're like, no, hang on. Sean Bean is. I want to see Sean Bean for more seasons. He's a brilliant actor. I love what I'm seeing. Why is he dead now? Why is this dead now? I'm waiting for episode 10 to give me some closure now. I'm waiting for more things to give me some closure on what I just saw, right? And it might sound like I'm being really passionate and a bit over dramatic, which is comes part and parcel with my nature, unfortunately. But yeah, I wasn't seeing it.
I felt the same. I was really excited for a new class. I really was looking forward to getting a cleric, which I was like, I really want to try a new class, especially for Classic Constructed, where I've just not picked up a hero that I've just become super attached to. So I was like, I'm going to pick a new class from Monarch. I'm just going to play that class in Classic Constructed, for good or bad. I'm just going to learn it. And now I'm a bit like, oh, what if the cleric is not a cleric and is going to be this sort of light wizard class, which is what a lot of people have been suggesting. And I don't really like wizard very much, and I don't really want to play wizard. So I'm a little bit concerned. It's not dampened my hype for the game and the spoiler season, but I'm just like, oh, am I going to get that new hero that I actually want to play, or am I just going to end up going back to something like warrior because it's not new enough that I feel like I want to pick up a new class? Not sure.
So
we're not. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, I just wonder. I think we've trusted Legend Story Studios so far with the game and trusted their direction, and they've talked about this being the set they started the game design with, but I don't think they would alienate some of their players by releasing only known classes using card sets that people may not have. So if you've collected Guardian and Warrior from the first set and you haven't got any Arcane Rising heroes, you would be completely alienated if all of these heroes are shadow or light versions of current classes. So I don't think they would take that risk yet. I think there will be new classes, and I think the talents will give us something in terms of deck building that we haven't seen yet. But I don't think it's going to be all or nothing.
But I think their main focus, one of their key tenets that they said that this is going to be the completion of the game, and that is actually their complete dedication of making a set work so well in draft in a sealed format. That is like their big reveal, right? And I think the majority of people set their expectations, and I think everyone across the board set an expectation and of what they envisioned, what they're going to see the game, and it was these 4 new classes. It was these, because Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wraith does follow that same mantra of this is a completely workable booster set for drafts and sealed. It's its own thing. Everything contains within its own box within itself. It doesn't need the others. The generics are the only things that talk to the others. It works that way. And I think that people go, oh, okay, cool, 4 more classes will be the same thing. But now it weirdly just says, well, it's Shadow Brute.
Yeah.
Shadow Brute's not new. It's Shadow. That's new.
The Shadow has been overshadowed by the Brute.
Yeah, exactly. we'd had a shadow class, we would have all been hyped, but because it links back to this existing class, we're not as it doesn't feel as new and as exciting.
Linking to what Hamish has just said, they've also stated categorically that the shadow and light don't retroactively affect any of the current heroes.
And that was like, for me, I was actually just a bit, again, like you said, Simon, I trust them. My expectation though was, why am I feeling disappointed about that? Why do I feel disappointed by that decision?
Why does it get me right here?
Yeah, why does this hit my heart? It's because I love the game, right? That's why it hits my heart. But it really did throw me off. I was like, what? Of course it makes sense, because it goes, it's not meant to talk to them in that sort of way. It's meant to be a draft sealed complete package for people who are doing draft and sealed for this format. But I don't know.
But let's take that point, because
anyway.
I think there are going to be a lot of people. Let's push the content of the spoilers to one side. I think there are going to be a lot of people that are excited about the commitment to draft and sealed within the game itself, because I know
absolutely
I've played some sealed in real life before COVID lockdown hit last year, the second lockdown, and it was awesome. The matches you have with people, the experience level within the game is less of an effect on the gameplay, and I just feel it's such an awesome way to introduce people to the game. It's such an awesome way to compete in the game. Their commitment to that makes me happy.
And we know that LSS is very much wanting to support local game stores, and I think we know that sealed as a format is a format that local game stores quite like, because it sells product and you can go to an event and you can come away with some cards if you're a new player. So I can see why they've focused on that, and we are all coming from the experience of having played Blitz on webcam, a constructed format, Blitz constructed, for quite a long period of time. So maybe that's kind of, we've been playing that format. Now, I'm not saying that Blitz has been stale by any means, but you know, there are some tier one there are some tier one heroes, and there was a bit of repetition in the number of heroes that you would come up against, and me and Simon are partially to blame for that, playing
I like that. Heroes. You guys actually brought the boring to the party.
But what I'm saying is that perhaps we were like we wanted a bit more excitement in Blitz, which we might honestly, this podcast could go out and, you know, 3 new heroes, probably not 3, but like 3 new heroes have been announced. It
will be.
And all this will be completely rubbish. But if that's not the case, you know, we've still got sealed, and it really does seem like sealed is going to be super interesting in terms of this shadow versus light mechanic, which seems almost designed for sealed, and shadow heroes fighting light heroes, and obviously that's super thematic, super interesting. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm really excited about playing some sealed in the pre-release weekends as well.
Oh, it's absolutely. What, 3 weeks away? It's going to be phenomenal.
Absolutely. It's dated the 14th for us doing this recording. By the time we probably get something out, what our opinions and views and all this will probably vastly change going forward. But at the same time, I think it's still important to capture at this point right now, how we generally felt from this very first thing came out. And it may be really interesting to come back to this and go, oh man, like, we'll never know this feeling of how confused we are.
Well, what have we got? We've got like 5 to 10% of the card pool of the whole set.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, this
and we're making assumptions.
300 more to go.
Yeah. However, that doesn't change the fact we've got something that is completely new for this set, and we are now seeing cards that go in your deck that are legendary.
Oh.
Now, we've seen 2 Shadow instants released at the legendary rarity. One is a Levia specialization and one is a Chain specialization. Doomsday and Eclipse. And they both talk about tokens that we haven't seen yet. They're not released. But a lot of the chatter.
I think there's another one, sorry. I think there is also another one. Sorry to interrupt. There's the other... I can't pronounce her name.
Levia.
Is it Levia? Livia.
So Levia has. So this is a classic thing in Flesh and Blood that comes up occasionally, is that we have legendary rarity and we also have legendary as a keyword.
Correct.
Yeah,
so
Soul
legendary
Harvest
means that you can only have one card of it in your deck, but there's also the rarity legendary as well. So I think Soul Harvest is legendary keyword rarity rare, which is obviously a bit weird.
Yeah,
but we also have Doomsday and Eclipse, which are legendary rarity, which so far has meant that in first edition they should be cold foil cards. So we have a couple of issues that are brought up by this. How do people feel about shuffling cold foil collector cards in their deck, for one? But also, how do we feel about having powerful cards limited to one per deck within your deck? Let's start with the first one.
Yeah, I think the first one kind of nicely ties into the second half of this part of where we're going to go into. Is I think it really, honestly, just depends who you are as a player, right? If you want cold foils to sell money, no. You're going to put that straight into the, you're going to put 2 house bricks in between it, cement it all up and crack it open in 30-30, and then hopefully it'll be worth a quid, right? It'll be the most protected thing ever. You're never going to stuff all that into your deck. Most of the... Well, I don't want to say most. I actually don't want to say most. For all the other people, for examples, my brother, oh my god, that card's going to look like a mangled wreck by the time it's done. It's going to be sleeved as best as it can be, but it'll be shuffled. It'll be shuffled to hell.
He's going to riffle it in there.
Of course he will. I mean, because some people just go, I don't give a fuck if it's cold foil. It's the card. And if I'm lucky enough to have the card in that foil, whatever. So it depends who it is, really. But
and we wouldn't even be having this conversation if we were in any other card game. It's just Flesh and Blood where we've been lucky enough recently, and we can talk about this also being a problem based on a new mechanic, which is equipment. You can put it in a plastic case and just leave it on the board, and you don't have to shuffle it, right? And that's just been a mechanic of Flesh and Blood, and that could have easily not been the mechanic, or they could have
it's been a
easily treated
workaround
equipment as rares or something, and it's allowed people to box up their expensive cards and play with them, but it was never something that LSS went out and said, we're going to look after your expensive cards by making them nice and safe. Like, that's just what people have done. Yeah, workaround, like you said, Simon, that we've come up with. Yeah. And now we're like, how dare you design the game that doesn't allow our workaround to work anymore? Wait a second.
The game rules state that when a piece of equipment is destroyed, it goes in the graveyard. And I remember back in August, October time last year, people saying, this will matter one day. And you will have to put your top-loaded cards or magnetic one-touch case cards in the graveyard, and that doesn't work if you're keeping them in these big chunky cases or graded slabs. But it has been a workaround, and I think there will be some people who have something to say about that when the time comes.
It's compromise, man. Come on, let's be real, right? You can't have. Of course, there's going to be some people that are going to find this a bit of a problem, right? But it's quite minority, isn't it? They basically want to have the card. They want to keep its value, and they want to play it. It's almost like trying to have your cake and eat it, and it's not. If I sound like I'm throwing salt or any offense to anyone, I'm not, right? But I think it's come to this point now where value and playability, you have to kind of just sit there and make a bit of a choice on this, and I understand that you really want to use this awesome cold foil version of your card, and you don't want to devalue its monetary value from this, but at the end of the day, I think it's come to this point now where you've got to put a point, you've got to make a choice now. Is this card more valuable for you in clout or in cost? And
Unlimited is only 3 weeks later, right?
I know. And some people just go, well, I don't want to use it. I know, but guess what? It's just the way the world is, mate. It's just going to have to make... Sometimes life's shit. I wish I can just drive around with no MOT. But you got to get an MOT. You got to follow the rules. It's not fair, but, you just got to roll with it. It's just the way it is. Life's
So should we
shit.
talk about the second part of that question, which was how it was the idea of almost limiting the power of a card by only allowing one copy of it in your deck, or
Yeah,
putting
so
this restriction on a card so you can only play one copy of it.
so not the legendary rarity that we've just mentioned, but the legendary card
The once per deck bit.
once per deck restriction, which, if you have a super powerful card, is that a viable way of restricting the strength of the deck as a whole?
Based on the information that we've got, one of them, we have absolutely no idea about what that power level means, and the other one is not that powerful. So I really like the Soul Harvester is not that strong, right? 6 costs, hits for 6. If I hit someone, no, sorry, you banish up to 6 cards and you get +1 for everyone. That's pretty much universally the golden bit, isn't it? Right? That's the bit where it doesn't matter what happens, because the next bit turns around and goes, if you hit a hero, you remove all the soul, right? Which, if you don't know what soul is, I'd probably recommend just go looking up on what soul does, because I don't think we have too much time to describe what everything means. But you lose health for every soul they lose. So this card is pretty much going, oh, if you're light, it has an additional damage bonus. But the middle bit is the bit that it doesn't matter if you're fighting a light hero or not. You know, that's the kind of the strength that comes from it. So a 6 cost 6, you know, hit for 12, effectively.
Yeah, potentially deal 18, I think. Well, depending on how many cards they have in their soul.
Yeah, but I ignore the soul bit. That's the thing, because the soul bit is so variable. So realistically, on average, you're hitting for 12. So a one-off card, one in your deck, cost 6, hit for 12. Yeah.
It's an interesting card because it's probably the first time we've seen, or maybe not the first time, but we've seen the bundling of 2 cards into one card, which traditionally is quite a strong thing to have. So we've got in there a red Slogism, which is the +6 off the top of my head, and kind of just a generic 3 cost deal 6, right? Those
Well, you
two
could
cards
Slogism this.
potentially bundle. Yeah, you could also Slogism, but the idea is you're getting those 2 similar effects, but you're only paying 1 card for it. You know, obviously you'd still have to pitch the number, so that's a good thing. But those 2 cards aren't necessarily great. It's not something you see in Brute necessarily, and are there just other ways for Brute to kill you without all this rigmarole of pitching 6 and having 6 cards in the grave that they can then banish to do so, which is also then going to deal you a bunch of damage if you don't discard something with Levia's ability. So it's very much an all or nothing type deal. And I think you can lead into this card using another card that has been announced to make it deal even more damage. But I think we're starting to get to the point of, you know, if we're designing the perfect hand, that's fantastic. If you can pull that off in a game, that's fantastic. But how many times are you actually going to be able to do that in a competitive game? You know, you do it once and you feel great about it, but it's possibly not a strategy. And also, we just don't know all the cards. It's very difficult to say.
It is.
I think
It's
in terms
speculation.
of in terms of limiting cards. So my background is I play a lot of Hearthstone, and obviously in Hearthstone you have the legendary cards, which you could play 1 of instead of 2 of. And I just always found them very frustrating, but that was because Hearthstone is a game where you draw 1 card per turn. So I'm not so bothered about it in Flesh and Blood, because you draw 4, potentially more if you get a 5 intellect hero every turn. And you nearly always draw 4 cards a turn if you're playing the game well. So I'm not as bothered by it, but I think it needs to be used sparingly. I'm slightly worried that we've seen 3 cards that do it already. That's slightly worrying to me. I would like to see maybe 1 or 2 cards.
Although if that's a thematic choice for that hero and the power level of that hero, then that could, in my opinion, could work. On a tangent, on a slight...
Sorry, I'll go on.
No, I was just going to say, on a tangent, and I know Hamish and I have spoken about this before, how awesome is it to see a female character, both powerful and grotesque, not the usual Dorinthia or Dash style female character that is typically attractive, but something that is just powerful and awesome.
Monstrous.
Monstrous.
Yeah, Yeah, it's these things are reserved for the its and the males, right? That this if you imagine something just transforms and it's evil and it rips and tears and all this stuff, think Doom. It's a very male eccentric, power. It's power, isn't it? Power and might, absolute. And usually in historically, when people are creating stuff, that is reserved to an it or a male thing, right? Because it's power and might and strength and all that sort of stuff. And to see that come out as a woman, right? And she looks just absolutely awesome. It's Cthulhu-y, her armor it's still a woman, right? It's still got this. It's still got the silhouette. I don't know. We're
feminine form.
We're probably mansplaining, and someone's going to be sitting there going, "Ah, what the hell?" Anyway, but putting all this liberal hippie wafty shit aside, it's clearly a woman that has just been she's been demonic. I literally look at this and I actually just think, oh my god, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. And I'm usually the edgelord dude that I love Viserai, I love Brute, clearly, I want to see this power hungry stuff, and she's in that boat. And it just suddenly just struck to me that I just thought, I just don't see this. I don't see a woman becoming this edgelord-esque style of play. As you can probably tell, the whiskey's hitting in, because I'm going in. I'm coming in strong. But no, I just suddenly just thought, oh my god, I just didn't realise how maybe this does happen maybe more than we think, but it doesn't happen enough. And it's really cool to see this. So
yeah, and I really like the darker turn that the newest set has taken in terms of the places that they're willing to go in terms of the art style and the story. I mean, the story itself is horrific in terms of what's going on, and I love that they've gone in this direction. And you've got this angelic light side on one hand, and also this very dark demonic side, which is really, really interesting. That conflict is a very classic conflict, but they're really going for it. They're not holding back.
They've not shied away.
They've commissioned some amazing artists to make some absolutely fantastic art for this game. And it always comes up in conversation. People were saying, what got you into Flesh and Blood? And the art is bringing people into this game because they're looking at it and saying, damn, that looks absolutely amazing. I want to own that on a card.
Yeah, it's visceral.
Maybe I'll play with it later, but it's cool to have that. And we've seen the playmats as well. They look fantastic, and it's a real asset to this game. Just how great everything looks, the art style.
So it's stuff like Mangle, right? Sorry to keep on to this topic, but it's stuff like Mangle. I mean, like, my brother was looking at Bravo, and he was like, Bravo just looks like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. And I was like, I know, right? He doesn't look exactly imposing. But then you look into the cards and you see Mangle and what's the other one that just banishes 5 cards? It basically hits this dude with a hammer and he hits him in half.
Righteous Cleansing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You just see these cards and you're like, oh my god. And Snag? Yeah. He's dragging a guy with his skull.
Yeah, he's got his eyeball. Like a hook in his eye. It's amazing.
It's a very visceral experience, this is, and I think that it's like you were saying, it's not just like it's good and bad. It's good, and why are these guys bad? Even the good is got to do some dirty stuff to get the job done. And the bad is going to show off why it's bad. It is not nice.
We're not going to get too into the lore, but
but I think we should.
The evil, the demonastery was founded by someone who originated from Solana. So
do you call it demonastery? Sorry,
yeah,
I call it the demonastery.
I always call it demonastery, and I'm going to stick with it because I've already made
I call it the demonastery.
I've made it 3 videos now where I've called it that, so I have to commit to that.
I haven't listened to them, and this.
I'm all in on demonastery.
Demonastery, yeah.
So
probably they're obviously building up to this. Is Solana is good as it looks, and probably not. And are the bad guys as bad as they look? Not sure. Especially Viscerai.
It's that Mitchell and Webb look meme, isn't it? Are we the bad guys?
I think all this talk about how visceral things have gone. Unless is there any other points we want to go on about first edition? Because I think this is a really good segue into showcasing how amazing Dan Tripp's YouTube videos are about describing the lore of this game. Is there anything else anyone's got to say?
No, let's listen to me.
So what we're going to do, Dan Tripp's got a YouTube clip. We're going to put a link up in the comments, or wherever the hell you're going to probably listen to this stuff. There'll be a link, and here's an excerpt of Dan Tripp's latest sort of addition to Levi's. Is it Levi's?
Levia.
We're going with Levia.
Levia, sorry. So Levia's storyline, and here's a small excerpt of what that is.
Thunder erupted in the room. Doors slammed shut. They had taken a bite from the depths of hell, and now they were cursed to burn. Curtains slid back, and the nobles stood there, ready to watch the scene below. A droning noise of sheer brutality filled the room, and the servants fell. Blood ran on the walls, and their bodies began to dissolve. Their very bones burnt, that stinking smell of it filling the room, that acrid scent filling Levia's nostrils and throat. Levia knew what she had to do, even as her own skin began to melt. She enacted her rituals and fell upon the nearest body, filling her mouth with raw meat. Through the gore and mist, she saw a dark creature with a gaping maw of 100 massive fangs. The creature came for her, but she dodged its claws' attacks. She had this newfound flexibility and agility, and then she attacked the beast herself, and she tore at it, and she felt its flesh tear. She now had talons where her hands had once been, claws that could cut through flesh, and she saw black blood spill forth from the cuts that she herself had inflicted on this dark beast. She leapt back and landed on the marble floor, and it cracked beneath her weight and power. The bloodlust faded, and she looked down at her left hand, where the dull eyes of Lady Barthelmont sat in her disembodied head. She was free from her master's control, but where did this newfound strength come from, and who did she now owe for its use?
Boom.
Brilliant.
Clap.
Mate, this is going great. I tell you what, we should be drinking every single time.
Talking about bringing people into the game, here's an interview I've had with a collector from our own local community about how he got into collecting the game.
Oh, okay. So, what was his name? What does he do?
So, I've had a chat with James, otherwise known as Withered Pixel, on Discord, and he's been very kind to come and speak to me about how he got into collecting Flesh and Blood, and what is it that really sparks that desire for collecting the game.
Brilliant. Let's have a listen.
Let's hear it.
So just a quick thing. Unfortunately, there was some audio issues when Simon did his interview with James. So I had to put on a little bit of my editing whiz magic. So if it sounds a little bit thingy, it's because unfortunately there was some audio issues, but the whole point of it is still really valid. So I hope you enjoy it regardless.
So welcome everybody to our first interview on Push the Point podcast. Today we're speaking to a collector and investor in the game based in the UK. He's been an active member of the community in the UK Discord. Today I have with me James, otherwise known as Withered Pixel. Nice to have you here today, James, and thanks for agreeing to have a chat with us.
Yeah, it's alright. Good to be on here. I think the Discord, if people really want to get into sort of Flesh and Blood, Discord's definitely a good way to go.
Yeah, I think it's been a really active community so far, and it's great to see people from all different backgrounds conversing and talking, getting through all sorts of different ideas. It's been a really good community to be a part of in the rising popularity of the game. So thanks again for being here today. I've got some questions for you, if that's okay, based around your collecting and investing.
Yeah, sure, that sounds good.
So give me an introduction, if you would. How did you get into the game of Flesh and Blood?
So I think it was probably about October time, actually before even then, when Rudy from Alpha Investment first started doing his videos about Flesh and Blood. I sort of watched a few of them. Obviously, he was mainly Magic. I did play a bit of like Magic Arena, and obviously before that, as Pokémon, Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid. I was looking into just investing sort of money into different things anyway at that time. I remember his first video where he was talking about Welcome to Wraith and like cold foils and it's from New Zealand, all this stuff. And I was watching it and just thinking like it's like a new game that he's sort of pushing. I knew he wasn't an investor in it, but he wished he'd got into it. And I thought it was really interesting. I really thought it was something that people could get behind. And then I kind of just, as it is with most things, obviously you're just sitting there on your phone, so on to the next video, you're watching something else. I completely forgot about it. Yeah. Fast forward to October time. I think Crucible of War had just come out in America, and it was just about to come out in the UK. And I kind of fell back in love. Well, not fell back in love, but rediscovered Flesh and Blood. I watched some like gameplay videos about people playing, obviously on the TTS and in real life.
And by that time, there was a lot more content out there about the game, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a lot more. Well, there's tons now. I think it was still kind of growing at that point. But I think I literally just typed it into YouTube and watched everything I could to try and get a better understanding of how it plays, the product, everything. I really enjoyed it. I thought it looked really good. And when Crucible War drops in the UK, I think I bought a case, Crucible War, first edition, and I was always there like, maybe I'll just hold on to it and sell it later, sort of do the bad thing and flip it for easy profit. And I kind of, because I fell in love with the game, I was there like, I'm going to hold on to it for a long time and just ride it out. And then if in 2 years' time it drops to nothing, I'm probably just going to open it just to see what I had in there. And I've still got them sitting literally there in the same room as me right now with a few other things. And I don't ever really want to sell them now.
So now you've resisted the temptation to open them so far. But I think, as you've alluded to, that shows a faith in the game and the growth of the game. That you're in this for the long term.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it can be one of the sort of, I wouldn't say it takes out one of the top 3 card games, but I think it will join them and it will become one of the top 4, if you will. I think the gameplay is really good. I think the collectible side of it is really good. Obviously, we've got investors. I bought all my Crucible War stuff. I bought some hero decks. I bought a brick of hero decks as well. And then from there, I was kind of like, I actually really want to open some stuff. So I started buying unlimited products. I think I bought a case of Welcome to Wraith, a case of Arcane Rising. And they've all been put into binders. So I'm starting to collect now unlimited products. Probably with first edition, I'll just keep it sealed because sealed always goes up in value.
And I know we've seen you on Twitch at a few of the case breaks, for example from Kingdom Games, and that seems to be a good way for the collectors to get some of the higher value cards.
Yeah, I think if you want anything sort of specific, or you can trade what you need to, I think I've got most of my legendaries that way, and a lot of the mythics. I got myself a Rainbow Foil Command and Conquer through that, so I was actually really chuffed with that.
So, with all of that in mind then, James, what do you consider to be a success? What is the benchmark for success when it comes to investing in a card game like Flesh and Blood?
I think something that looks longevity-wise. So if you've got huge amounts of investment, huge amounts of collectability, but then no one's really playing the game, then you're kind of you can kind of have that with Pokémon, really. But then you do have the other side of it where people do play the game, like the actual card game.
Yeah.
I think as long as we have like a healthy like competitive scene with investors and the collectability stays where it is, I think this game's going to be really successful.
What is your favourite aspect of Flesh and Blood so far?
I really like the lore. I know it's really hard to get a hold of a lore book to actually be able to sit down and read it. I know there's like the articles on the website. I can't remember who linked it into the Discord, but someone had a PDF version. I think I sat down and read the whole thing in like an hour, and then I think I've read it probably about 2 more times.
It's actually an incredibly well put together book, and I would just say that at this point the PDF has been not quite sanctioned by LSS, but people have been given permission to share within the community for personal reading rather than financial gain, while the local game stores are closed in COVID affected regions. I'll just pop that in there as a disclaimer. But it is an incredible book. So we've talked quite a lot there about the game itself. Do you play the game? Have you considered playing the game with your collector investor hat on?
Well, obviously I said I was collecting, so I'm trying to get a playset of everything with 2 regulars and then a rainbow foil version, which seemed really like a good idea, but it's turning out to be very expensive.
Yeah.
With that, I played on the TTS, the Felt Tabletop AI version as well. I definitely probably will be playing in person. I'm trying to get my hands on some IRA decks to open, to probably teach some friends how to play as well. So playing is definitely in my future at this point.
That's amazing to hear, thank you. And I would probably say I'm the opposite to you, having come in as a player, and I've got more into the collecting side than I thought I would. I thought I was just going to be playing and buying the cards I need for the decks and to play the decks that I liked. But actually, as soon as I opened that first box, which was Arcane Rising first edition back in August last year, I knew that I wanted to collect every single card and have 3 of each card to make those full play sets and have them in the binder. And it snowballed from there. I think we're probably on a similar level now in terms of wanting to collect and play, but it's great to hear from you that your collecting then got you into the play side of the game. And I think maybe when the community hear about investors, they don't necessarily see that side of things, but I think it does draw people into the game.
Well, I think people hear investors and they more think about flipping. Just you're buying a product at, say Monarch first editions are selling at £70, and then I'm just sticking it straight on eBay at 300, and then just waiting for someone, because someone will get desperate and buy it. Whilst, I mean, the allocations have just been ridiculous for Monarch. I think because everyone wants it so much that I'm only getting 2 boxes, quite a lot. So, but I'm then like, even if I got 1 box, that box is just gonna sit there getting some value, but I'm going to be buying probably 3 cases of unlimited. So
And that's all going to be opened.
Yeah, there isn't going to be a single thing. Anything unlimited in my house is getting opened. There's no stopping me, really.
I think that's an important point. I don't think while the word unlimited is attached to those sets, they're not truly unlimited. There will be a time when they stop printing them, but I don't think there is much financial incentive to keep them sealed right now.
I don't think at the moment, no. Everyone keeps trying to predict when they're going to stop. I don't think they will, just because it's such an easy jumping point for new players. Maybe 3 years from now, but then again, we'll have a lot of new sets coming out by then. So I don't know. I know that when I finish my Welcome to Wraith 1, I think all I need is a few legendaries and the hearts left.
Yeah.
I already said, once I buy my hearts, I'll be buying another case to then put away.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just so you can have them and complete the set of cases and boxes. Okay, so one last question just before we finish off, if that's okay. Just a snap question for you. Do you think first edition is good for the game?
Yes. I think it will help not even Flesh and Blood, but Legend Story Studios grow. As in, I know it's a small company with, I think in interviews it said it was James took money and investments from family and friends.
Yeah, there's no outside investment, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought that was the one issue that I was there like, oh my god, like someone's gonna do like some kind of takeover and then it's gonna be ruined. I think it's probably the best thing that they've really thought of because it brings in collectors, investors. I know players that have just been there like, I want my cold foils and I'll do anything to get them. Like they pull a heart, an unlimited heart, and they will just sell it straight away because they want like one piece of equipment in cold foil. So I think the first editions will always have value. People will they'll always be sought after, essentially. And even unlimited, I think when say like Welcome to Wraith stops being printed, that's even going to be sort of sought after, the unlimited version anyway. I think first editions will always be something that stays, and I think people will always want them. That's why I've invested in them.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, my personal opinion is that as a player first, when you pull some of these nice cards, you want to offload them, you want to get your money back for the case that you've just splashed out on. If there weren't collectors, I'm not sure there would be as big a market for those cards to then help you reinvest your money back in the game.
Yeah, exactly. What was that? Cold foil hearts now £40,000.
Yeah.
I remember hearing stories of people saying that they sold theirs for $200. So.
Yeah, and they were going pretty cheap back in April, May last year, which is crazy to think now, but this game has exploded in popularity on all three fronts: collecting, the playing, and the investing. And I think it's just, it's just great to be a part of this from early doors.
Definitely think Flesh and Blood's here to stay.
I've got my fingers crossed, and I've got faith in the game as well, and it sounds like you have too. James, I just really want to say thank you for your time and for coming and having a chat with me. I think it's great to get an insight into different mindsets within our community, and I've been so impressed with the community so far and how welcoming everyone has been to new members. So a big thank you from me. Is there anything you want to say before we finish up?
No, I'm just thank you. I'm happy to be here. Check out the Discord if there are anyone who's looking for a good community place to talk to people, ask questions, everything. There are some really lovely people there. I think it was within the first week, it was the first place I went to find out more about Flesh and Blood. So hit up the Discord.
That's really awesome to hear, and thank you again, James. And we'll speak again soon. Thank you.
I think we need to make a slight rule, which I hope you're all happy with. We need to drink when we're doing this, not heavily.
No, I think a beer is always
beer.
a good idea. It loosens the tongue.
Have something. Maybe not whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey might be a bit much.
That JD Honey is
Oh,
quite...
God.
the other one I quite like is the Jim Beam Black Cherry one. That's quite nice.
What? Have you had the Black Cherry Jim Beam?
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Oh.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Push the Point podcast, part 2.
Post
Is
interview.
this a part 2?
Post interview.
it's
Push the Point podcast.
Post interview.
So
yeah.
again, thanks to James for taking the time there, and I actually reached out to other members of our community on the Discord, and we had 4 questions that I was keen to ask people who consider themselves collectors primarily, maybe players second, and we had a couple of people get in touch, and it's a testament to our community that people are happy to come and chat about these things. So the first question we asked was, how did you hear about, or how did you get into Flesh and Blood? And we had a couple of varied answers. A community member called Biffer got in touch and said, actually, Alpha Investments on YouTube was the way he got into the game, and tried to find some boxes online in the UK, and actually Adam from Kingdom Gaming was the first person to pop up and sell a box before Kingdom Gaming existed, and was the way this person got into the game, which I think again is testament to the community and the roots of the community. Another person who got involved is Cheeky on the Discord.
Ooh, we've got a Biffer and a Cheeky.
A Biffer and a Cheeky.
Cheeky Biffer.
And you will have seen these people on the Discord. They're active members of the community, and Cheeky answered that actually they were looking for Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so they're involved in another TCG. he specifically remembers that it was a blood rose dragon he was looking for, and stumbled across Flesh and Blood. And the
I was going to say, what went wrong? He was looking for Yu-Gi-Oh!
And the artwork, believe it or not, we've already spoken about the stunning artwork. The artwork drew them in, and they were absolutely hooked. The chase for the Diablo loot style equipment cards and the rarity, once they were in, that was it. They were in. The second question we asked was, what would you consider to be a success when it comes to investing in a card game, specifically Flesh and Blood? And generally, people looking at slowly appreciating card values, getting back the money they've paid for it, paying off investments previously, and maybe paying for nice things in the future, making sure they can afford future sets. And one thing that specifically was mentioned was nostalgia, and actually maybe looking back on your collection in 10 years' time and having that nostalgia about how you got involved and how you came to be involved in the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that even speaks to even the unlimited sets.
I think so.
Yeah, there's something about having a collection and knowing that you're going to be able to keep that, and in 10 years down the line you'll be able to look back and remember what you were into at that time and what you were playing, especially if you move from game to game to game. It's nice to have something to remember why you got into Flesh and Blood in the first place, and some of those original cards. We're going to see, I imagine we're going to see power creep in the game at some point, and looking back at some of those original cards, like even something like Drone of Brutality is already a bit nostalgic because you can't play it anymore, and you look at it and you're like, oh, remember the good old Drone days, and they're long gone now, over 3 weeks or whatever that's been banned for. And yeah, so that's a really interesting point from them.
So, big question to finish off the episode today. Is first edition, as it stands, good for the game of Flesh and Blood?
I think that we probably... How would you feel if we sum this up in a very, very quick response and then leave the real in-depth stuff for the community, if they want to answer, and then we'll come follow it, and we'll do a little bit of a follow-up in the next episode.
Absolutely agree. This is a snap question. Give me a couple of sentences to finish it off.
Okay. Tripp.
Oh, thanks. No, give yourself 5 minutes to think about it.
I sat there and thought, I forgot the question.
So I can give 2 sentences. So first sentence is, you could never take first edition away from the game. And my second sentence is, first edition is good for creating hype around the game.
Nice.
Okay. I think first edition is good because it creates, again, interest in the game overall. And my second sentence is, I suppose really this very much appeals to the ethos of the secondary market. So it does hit that target for LSS, I suppose. I think it's good, but you have to, I suppose it depends on where you are as a person in your area, really.
So my final thoughts on this question are, collectors and players are more intertwined than we would like to think. And if there was no secondary market in the game, players would have less money to reinvest in the game they love.
That is very true.
That's a good soundbite, that one. Yeah.
Oh man, I feel like I should just edit out mine and Tripp's bit and just
Hey, what?
yours.
I like my answer. I had to come up with mine on the spot. You got time.
Yeah,
to think
so
about
no, you sat there, you had that script. Don't give me that wink. Yeah. Wow. How profound. I have to say, I agree. I mean, I sold some coal foils, and that's the reason I can get the money to buy first edition. The game has brought the game.
Yeah.
How weird.
Yeah. Well, if you've enjoyed listening to the podcast, please let us know what you think about whether you think first edition is good for your game, because we'd really like to take some of your questions and your sum of ideas and use that to talk about in future episodes. So either just message us on Discord or just reach out to us however you like, and we'll use that for a future podcast idea. That'd be fantastic.
We say this because I don't think we've got a Facebook page set up. We've got a Gmail.
It's coming.
Just WhatsApp us.
So we do have a Gmail.
Send us a message via pigeon, right?
Yeah.
You can find us at pushthepointpodcast@gmail.com.
Oh wow, we do have a Gmail. Okay.
We do. Wow.
Say that again. So say that again, Simon.
Pushthepointpodcast@gmail.com.
Wow.
Oh yeah, we can cut that out and just throw it around the podcast in various places.
Push
so
the
people
point.
Don't forget.
We also have a YouTube page, which is where we'll be posting this podcast in its very first edition.
Yeah, and if it goes out quite well, we'll actually pay money into putting this on Spotify. Who knows? Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed your time. Peace out. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.